Hey, welcome to my channel, Paying the Ferryman 777, or indeed welcome back if you've already been watching my videos. I do appreciate it. Sorry for the delay between this and the last one. I've had to move house twice and I'm living in a new city, a lot of changes in my life, so I didn't really have time to make a video and upload it, but I've been looking forward to sharing this part of my story with you. It was pretty cool. It was the first spiritual battle, I would call it, that I did. It happened during the first time that I would clean a house spiritually, clean a space spiritually to help the people in there kind of get out of a very negative situation. So one day I was like just in my car when the intuition came to me to help my in-laws, my husband's parents at the time. Their house always felt like a lot of conflict and anger and arguments and stuff like that, like can happen in families. But this felt it was quite dark and negative sometimes, and the idea came to my head like an intuition to do a house cleaning on their home. And funnily enough, I mentioned in a previous video a friend had given us some of the tools needed to do that. But again, I'd never done it before. I said it to my husband at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, we should definitely do that." I had the same intuition about that as you did. I wanted to suggest the idea to you. So we both had the same intuition, the same suggestion given to us at the same time. And that happened quite a bit. Spirit would give us both the same message, and then through our communication, we'd have confirmation of the same message. It would come often at the same time and it would be synchronized. So it was like little confirmations about it. So we were guided to clean this house because spirit obviously knew. We didn't know, but it was necessary. Never did it before, but we trusted. I truly, really trusted my guides. This new connection that we had been developing with spirit, and we decided, okay, we'll do that. We'll ask for permission. Can we clean the house spiritually? So we ended up going there one weekend, like we did often, just to hang out, have barbecue, drinks. This weekend we were planning on doing the cleaning. We asked, and they wanted it, so it was all good, all a go. And we got there, and we decided to have dinner first with my mother-in-law. So there was three of us sitting at the table in the kitchen. Uh, but as soon as I entered the house, I said to my husband, "They know we're here. Whatever forces are here, they know we're here and they know what we've come to do." And I started to receive attacks as soon as I entered the house. Um, but I was being guided at the same time. I wasn't like just thrown into this. This was my first time to do this, so it was very much like on intuition, um, and trusting in my guides and just going with it, knowing that they're there. And it's a learning process as much as it is a job that needs to be done. But sitting at the kitchen table, the dinner table, trying to just have a conversation, my eyes became really heavy, and I started to almost pass out at the kitchen table. And my husband was like, "Rob, like, stop being rude. My mom was trying to talk to you." And I'm like, "Dude, something's going on." I couldn't really understand it straight away, but I was starting to go into a trance at the dinner table because I was being attacked by these energies as soon as I had entered the house. And my guides, my guardians, were trying to get my attention. And I went into this trance, and my husband knocked me out of it. It's like, "Dude, you're falling asleep at the table." I'm like, "No, no, I'm not. I'm being attacked. Like, we need to work. We need to do this." And then he was like, "Okay, I'm sorry, I understand." I sort of went into this trance at the table, and I could see behind my husband, like a spirit behind him. One of his guardians was just like trying to like get my attention. And I was like, "Oh, okay, something's happening." And I felt really dizzy. I felt like I wanted to pass out, and I was like, "Oh, let's." An intuition came to me. It's like, just do something nice for them. what does this space need? What does this family need? Came to my mind, and they were like, oh, they need a little bit of prosperity, just a little bit of good luck, blessings. And at that moment, my guide, one of my guides, kind of took the driving seat, as I say, and he did a little movement with his finger. And as he moved his finger, he drew a pentagram on the ceiling with golden light. And in this state of trance, I was kind of starting to black out almost. And when he did this, calling prosperity into the space, the little portal opened and light shone through it. Gold flakes came out. It was what had happened in a ritual previously. I just did it and I didn't really understand what was the purpose of it, but now I got to use it in a practical sense. A lot of stuff is like that. Sometimes you learn things and you don't really know what they're for until later when you get the chance to use them in a practical situation. So I opened, with the help of my guide, through me, he opened this portal in the roof, which let this golden light come into the room. Small little kitchen, little kitchen table, just the three of us. But this portal opened the roof, and light shone in, and my vision became clear, and suddenly I could see that around the table was a multitude of these creatures. They were spirits, but they were unlike ones I had previously seen. They were darker and zombie-like in their energy, like a horde, it felt like. So I could just see these thousands of these people. They had a humanoid shape, but they were black skin. They looked like they had black skin, like, and it wasn't human skin. They looked like leeches. It looked like they were humanoid leeches, essentially, with this like shiny black skin and a large opening on their face with no facial features, just like a big hole. So they were like humanoid leeches with this big mouth for a face, and there was just thousands of them around the table. And my husband at the time, his guardian spirit was behind him, doing this, like come on, do something. And I was torn between worlds. I was in this place where this battle is happening and we're being surrounded by these very dark zombie-like leech people, and back at the table trying to look normal and be like polite at the dinner table. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm trying to be polite and also like deal with what's going on a different frequency at the same time. And it was in this moment that when my spirit animal helped for the first time, at least in a sense of being very clear and visually helping me. I saw this deer. A stag is my spirit animal. He ran from behind me, from outside of my perspective, and ran into this crowd of leech people, these zombie-like spirits. My stag just ran into the middle of them, and then they all swarmed him. It was like he sacrificed himself, and there was a sort of a momentary relief in the heaviness that I was feeling, the energy that I was feeling from them being all around us. And in that moment of relief, my stag sacrificed himself, giving me time to gather myself a little bit. I kind of came back to the dinner table, talked a little bit, ate a little bit, looked to my husband. I was like, come on, like we need to do this. So he's like, yeah, I know. And he could feel stuff too. Mine is a little bit more visual. I can feel things. I can sometimes hear things, but it's very visual for me. He was starting to pick up on that too. He was feeling it too. So we got our tools. Put his parents and his sister into one of the bedrooms, and we grabbed like some incense and my little maraca, and we were like, okay, so let's go, let's do this. What do we do? It was like that. And I was like, so let's just go in here into the kitchen and see if I can do stuff what I did before. Like, we'll make lights, I'll talk to them. And as soon as I turned around when we walked into the kitchen, a spirit appeared in front of me, fully formed, with my eyes open, just right there in the kitchen. It's a woman. She kind of had this middle age like uh, energy about her, and she started to complain to me. She was like, "Why am I here? What am I doing here? What is this place? I'm not supposed to be here. This place isn't for me." Like as if I was customer service or something. And she just started complaining, and she didn't really know where she was. She didn't know what was going on, and she was annoying. If I'm honest, she was kind of annoying. I felt sorry for her. Obviously, I had compassion, but she was annoying. She was like a Karen, like that meme, that stereotype. But yeah, like she was complaining at me, and I just hugged her. I just was like, and I just hugged her, and I was like, I love you, and I hugged her, and she became a light, and she disappeared up in upwards direction. And I was like, okay, that was fine. Walked into the living room, through the kitchen. It was a little kitchen, a humble house, a little kitchen, little living room. And then when I hugged this ghost and she went away, I just walked straight into the living room. But as I went through the portal, the door from the kitchen into the living room, it was like I passed some sort of force field or some sort of barrier, and the energy just went down, and everything became darker. And I saw this flash of an inverted pentagram in my face, like with the kind of like goat symbol, Baphomet type symbol of the pentagram, but inverted, like, right. So the point was downwards, and I felt just this flash in my face, this vision in my face, very strong, and then this drop of energy as I stepped into the living room, and it was quite a small room, with a TV and a couple of sofas, but I was in the room, but I was also seeing a second space in the space, so I could see the room, but superimposed on top of the room there was this second space, again like I was in this other vibration or other dimension at the same time as being in the physical world. And I looked into the corner of this room. Now, the spiritual version of the room, it was bigger, and it didn't look like exactly the same. It was kind of dank and cavey and had a reddish light to it, low energy, dense energy sort of thing. And there was something over in the corner, like a guy in the corner, and he had this red cape, like red cloaks on him. Couldn't really make out the details of his face, but it was like demonic-ish looking. It had like animalistic features, but he was quite distant in the other corner of the room, and he was at a table mixing something. He was making something at a table, and when I entered the room, he turned over and he looked over his shoulder, and I was kind of scared. I was like, oh fuck. I hadn't had this experience before, and I was like, who are you? Like, what's your name? That's what came out of me. Probably just because I've watched horror movies, and I'm like, you need to get their name. You need to figure out what their name is. So I'm like, what's your name? I command you to give me your name. What are you doing here? And he turned to me, and he just made a movement with his hands, and he launched a fireball at me. I shit you not. It was like a blue uh, flaming ball that he launched at me, and it moved relatively fast. It wasn't like a bullet, but it moved relatively fast across the room, and it hit me in the chest. And I had a little cross, not this one, it was a different cross, but I had a cross that I always wore. It was a gift from a friend, and it had safe travels written on the cross, and I always had that cross on my neck, and it hit that cross, and it physically, like I could feel the impact hit my chest, and it pushed me back physically. I like needed to take 2 steps back, but I knew that the cross had absorbed this hit of energy, this fireball that he launched at me. And in that moment, I wasn't in the driving seat again, although I was fully conscious, and it was like me there, but a collaboration again with one of my guides. I wasn't in the driving seat anymore, and he just did this movement with his hands, and it instantly, like a white bubble came around my space. My like energetic field was encapsulated in a bubble, and I was standing on the ground, so this bubble just kind of made a dome to the ground where I was, and this entity, this demon, whatever, it launched another fireball, and it just hit the side of this white dome, and the whole thing rippled like boom, like a force field from a movie. It was insane. And I'm like, okay, I'm safe. I'm in. I've got my bubble. I've got my ball. I'm in my bubble. What do I do now? And it was at this moment that like other entities joined this thing, this boss one, because what I could sense from them was there was a hierarchy. There was this one that was doing his thing in the corner. Then he had these other couple who came in, and they were like generals. They had this sense of importance, but not as much of important as him or it. And then there was this other like little one, and he was kind of like a little scrappy demon. He was small and like wiry and a bit mad. The other two, they were like more human-esque. They looked like magicians of some sort. They looked like they were wearing cloaks. Like they each had their own style. They were each two different, very different people. But yeah, it was like this guy who launched the fireballs had these underlings, these generals or henchmen, and these three henchmen, and then those entities that I had seen earlier in the kitchen, those leech people, they all appeared again, hundreds, thousands of them, all around this leader and his henchmen, and it felt almost like that those entities were his. Those leech people were almost like his slaves, or in some way he's utilizing them to siphon energy for himself and for his little posse. It's almost like he had this legion of these leech entities, these spirits, lost souls maybe. But yeah, this little scrappy henchman of his, he had like little horns. He was like a little imp demon, and he's all like jumping around, like very energetic. The others are just standing there beside their leader, and he's just jumping around, and he's jumping at the force field, and he's like poof, hitting it. He's trying to break his way in, and it's making these little ripples outside my bubble as he tries to hit his way in. And all of a sudden, my guide started talking through me. One of my guardian spirits, he started talking through me, and he's like, "Anybody who wants to leave this place, now's your chance. You come with me, or you can stay here." And with that, all of the leech people that were all around, started to pile on top of the bubble, the white light bubble, and become light themselves, and it created this stream upwards as this multitude of leech creatures jumped on top of my force field, transforming themselves into light, and then just going up into the sky. So all these creatures, I can feel I can feel the boss over there in the corner getting angry. It was like I was stealing his soldiers or his slaves. I was saving them, but I was taking them away from him, and he had obviously power over them. And for whatever reason, in this house, they were using as a portal or as a way to siphon negative energy from people, which is what spirits do. People don't understand the level of influence spirits have over day-to-day life, over physical life. We're always being influenced one way or another. There's spirits everywhere, and they have varying qualities, just like humans have, just like people have, right? Varying qualities. Some people are more, let's say, charitable, kind, loving. Some people can be quite evil and dark, right? And spirits are no different. And they're always there. They're always influencing more than you can imagine. So yeah, all of these leech people, these zombie-like creatures, are just transmuting. They're just jumping onto the white light, and they're all going. The energy in the space is lifting. It's changing as they transform. And the boss over there, is like freaking out. I'm stealing all of his slaves, right? I'm saving them all. And at this moment, I looked to one of his henchmen, let's say, one of his minions. It was a feminine figure. She had this like purple hood with a triangle on the two sides of the hood, and one triangle. She had three triangles on the rim of this hood that she had over her head, and she ran towards me, and she ran through the white barrier, and it gave me a fright because I was like, "Oh, she's inside my shield. What magic is this? What do I do?" And she only got in because of her intention, I believe. She instantly got on her knees in front of me and took her hood down, bowed, and begged for forgiveness and said sorry. And she wanted to leave. She didn't want to be here anymore. So I was like, okay. And I just said, I love you, and put my hand on her, and she transformed into light too. And up she went. And then the energy again lifted a little bit more. I could still see this demonic or this entity that was there in the corner with his other henchman. And the other henchman was like this sort of ugly looking, depressed, very dark, very, very sick energy. It was like it looked like a clown, but like from the worst horror movie ever. And it had this like morphous appearance, this fluidic appearance to it. It was interesting, but I was half seeing it in this dimension, and then when I came back, phasing between there and here, I was half seeing it in the wall. It was like as if it was living in the wall. It was like the wall was moving, and I could see his face sometimes coming out and then going back in. Like seriously, something from a movie. But anyway, I got the energy off this thing was awful. It was like you really evil, really like dark, sick, perverse fucking energy. It was nasty, and I didn't know what I should do. So I was like, well, I just thought back to the other experience that I've had so far, which weren't many, but I was like, well, I can make light balls. I can do that. So I started to make these light balls. I was like, I love you, giving love to the light balls, and then I launched them towards this morphous, depressed clown figure. I launched three of them, and they started off moving a little like with speed, and then as they got closer to him, they slowed down, and they were moving towards him, but moving towards him very slowly, and it was painful. It was like, oh, come on, like in a dream when you can't move, it was kind of like that, but these three balls were moving towards him, one after the other, just kind of slowly. Um, but then eventually they did get to him, and they absorbed into him, and they started to like melt him. This thing screamed and screeched, and it was so disturbing. The sound of it was really disturbing. It was like, I don't know, it was like it was melting. It was like the light of love from these balls was burning it. This thing was so dark, so low vibes, that the light was hurting it. The light was actually like torturing it as it slowly melted him into light, piece by piece. All the other ones, they sort of just transform really fast and go up. But this one didn't transform really fast. This was like a battle. This was like a slow, screaming, melting process for him. Um, Later on, when I was like talking with my guides, I'd understand that it would have been better to use a different type of energy for him. It would have been maybe more humane. Um, Sometimes the light is just too much, and this thing was melting and screaming, and piece by piece it would like bits break off of it and melt and like become light and just go up fleck flake by flake, of light would come off him and he would go up. So his process of going up was way more difficult and apparently painful compared to all the rest. All the rest was like was really fast. Maybe there was a willingness there with the rest that wasn't there with him. And yeah, it took longer for him to transmute and to transform, and it was very disturbing looking and painful looking. But after I got rid of him, the other one, the boss one, disappeared. He did a kind of a thing like this, walked through a circle, it was like as if he made a portal, walked through it, and then closed it behind him and just disappeared. But at least the space was now cleared of these entities, of this portal that had been opened. There was some sort of portal there. There was some sort of anchoring of dark energy in that space, and I had disrupted it, got rid of it, and also saved a hell of a lot of negative energies, negative souls, lost soul in the process. And it was then that I started to do sort of an energetic cleaning on the space. It wasn't completely, let's say, the battle wasn't over, but the main part I felt was done, which was to get the enemies out of the space, to get the darkness out of the space for the most part, and I did that. Then I started to do a ritual of banishing, purification, lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, it's called. I started to do that. There was a negative entity still working against me through a portal. It was as if that thing that ran away didn't give up. He ran away out of sight, out of my reach, but he was still able to send energy or influence through a portal that he had. There was still something in the house that he was able to come through and manipulate the space and launch attacks. So I'm trying to do this ritual of banishment to clear the energy, and I'm doing my visualizations, and I'm building my light circles and my light pentagrams, and I'm doing what I always do. And then there was a voice came to my head, and it was like, do it in yellow. Do it in yellow. I'm like, well, I never do it in yellow. It's always blue fire. Blue fire is like purification. Always blue fire. Why would I do it in yellow? And the voice said, just do this pentagram in yellow. You make this one air energy. And I was like, all right. And I did it. And then the whole thing just shut off. It was like I short circuited my own magic, my own ritual, and everything that I had built, all the visualizations that I had built, they just went and powered down, and everything went into darkness and blackness. And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, I'm just going to pray. So I started praying prayers that I know from childhood. I brought up in Catholic Ireland, so I still pray. I'll still say Our Father prayer and Hail Mary prayer, for example. Very often I'll say those prayers. But in those situations, in ritual or in work, when I do say those prayers, I'm calling those divine energies, whether it be Our Father, Father, masculine low energy, or Hail Mary will be just a representation of the mother, feminine, sacred feminine energy. So I'm just like getting that masculine, getting that feminine, putting it together, making light, making energy, making love, whatever is necessary to transmute whatever energy is there at the time, or whatever the reason or intent behind the prayer is. But I started to pray these prayers that I know all my life, and all of a sudden my words just weren't coming out. I'm like, this is what the fuck, what? And I couldn't speak, and I'm like, Our Father, who and then I couldn't find the next word to these prayers I know off by heart. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, start again. And I'm like, Our Father, and then my confusion. All this time, my husband is behind me. He has his hands up and he's just praying, sending me energy. It's a some. We started to notice that when we worked together doing these things, it was as if he acted like an anchor in the physical world for me, and we had a connection. And then I could go into the other realms, and between us, there would be like a connection holding me together, holding us together across dimensions. So he was behind me, just praying over me, giving me light, giving me love, and then I was like trying to do my work, trying to build my rituals, my banishments, and then just using prayer to try and purify the energy, to purify the space. Uh, he was like confusion spell. His guide got the message to him, and he said to me, "It's a confusion spell. It's a confusion spell." He said it a few times. I couldn't really hear him. It was like he was shouting across a void. It was like he was shouting to me across a canyon, even though he was right behind me physically. So I could make it out, confusion spell. And I was like, oh, right, yeah, that's why I can't pray. So I stopped trying to use my words in my mind, and then I started to do a Reiki, like what again, something that I had learned in previous rituals, intuitively from guides. It just came, and I was like, right, if I can do Reiki on a person, I can do it on a house. I can do it on a space. Fundamentally, it's no different. So I started to like call fire energy and bathe the space in fire. And I could see it in this room that I was in, and then going through the house, moving up the walls, moving under the floors, coating everything, burning everything, purifying everything with this fire energy. So I was just going through an elemental Reiki for the whole house, passing fire everywhere, doing movements with my hands to push the energy through the space. And then, just like I did with a person before that I talked about in previous video, the first time I did Reiki, this elemental Reiki, I was doing the same process but with the house. I used fire first, and then I called water. So I put all the fire out with the water and purify and wash away everything. It would create this steam everywhere. So I'm just watching all these chemical interactions, alchemical interactions happening energetically. Then after the water, I take the air and blow the air through the space, cleaning all the ash and the dirt, everything away. And then finally the earth, and then I call up the earth and the rejuvenation, the green energy to grow, to rejuvenate the space. And you could see all the walls glowing green and flowers coming out of them and leaves coming out of them. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, it's working. And so I'm visualizing the whole space. I can see the 3D model of the entire house. I can zoom around it. I can pan in and out, and then I'm watching all this happening. Like the fire, then the water, then the earth, then the earth, and it's all like in the plans of the house, this 3D model. But there was one area of the house that it wasn't getting to. There was this little black box in the plan, and it was the room that we used to stay in. Me and my partner, it was our old room in that house. We had moved to our own little place at this stage, and whatever I did mentally with this energy manipulation, with the calling of these elements, with this Reiki, whatever I was doing, it was fine. It worked perfectly well for the whole house. But when I got to the bedroom that was at the very back of the house, my energy, my magic couldn't penetrate that room. It was like a black void in what was a beautiful plan of the house with all greenery growing on it now that I had finished all my work with roots of trees, that I had put this rejuvenation energy. But the plants and the trees and everything that I called all just wrapped around this room in this little plan, this 3D model that I had in my head. I was like, fuck. My husband disappeared. At that moment, I was in this other space, so I wasn't really paying attention. But he walked out the room, and I noticed the lack of his his energy, his focus, his prayers. And then uh, I was like focusing really, really heavily on this room, and I'm like, what? Why can't I get in there? Why can't I clean that space? What's going on? So it was like the last little stronghold in the house of something dark, but it was really scary as well. I remember like only thinking into that room, putting my consciousness on it, was terrifying. It was like there was something in there that was incredibly scary, or at least it was trying to make it seem like that room was very, very scary. And I was like, okay, we're gonna have to confront this. We're gonna have to go into that room. But there was this primal fear. There was this dread about going in there that came up when I thought about it. So I need to regroup a little bit at this stage. All of what was happening was very intense. Um, in the final process of doing this elemental Reiki and cleaning, my guides were directing me to cut or to close or to neutralize whatever portal that thing had left through. So I went over to the wall of the living room where this was happening, and I had my little rattle, and I was just shaking it, bringing good energy onto that area, like white light down onto that area, and very, very gently. I wasn't like, again, I wasn't in the driving seat. It was my guide at this stage, and he just very, very gently put the rattle onto the wall. Like he didn't hit the wall, he just put it onto the wall, and the rattle cracked. The whole rattle just took all the energy of that portal and cracked open. So it was like this tool was used to absorb the energy from the portal, from this spot in the wall, what was very heavily charged with negative energy, which was the entrance for this thing, and where it seemed the activity of his henchmen and his spirits was pouring through into the space, into the living space of this family, right? So at this stage, I needed to take a little break. I was like, okay, that's intense. My rattle, my maraca just smashed open from that energy. And my husband came back out of nowhere, and I'm like, where did you go? I noticed his absence in his work. I could feel his absence when he left. And he was like, I don't know. Something took control of me. And I walked all the way up to the bedroom at the back, which was the one I could see in my vision when I was trying to clean the whole house. And he was like, I walked to the door. This bedroom was on the second story at the top of a spiral staircase. He said, I walked there like I wasn't in control of myself, climbed the spiral staircase, got to the door, he said, and I opened the door, and then I just stood there looking in at what was a void. It was just a black. He couldn't see anything in the room. You should have been able to see. It wouldn't have been that dark. But for him, at this moment, in whatever trance that he was in, whatever was influencing him, he was at the door, and he was like, I could just see this darkness, and something was telling me to come in, and I couldn't go in. So I came back down. But I feel like I was standing there just looking into the darkness for a while. I was like, okay, this is kind of freaky. We're gonna have to deal with whatever's in that room. And he's like, no, I don't want to go into that room. I was like, I don't want to go into that room either. It feels really scary. It feels really dark. So we just regrouped a little bit. We just talked for a while. We said a few prayers. My guides came. They gave us a little briefing, actually. A couple of pointers about what we had just done and how we could do it better, and then a sort of a prompt to say you're not finished yet. And we were tired. This was like tiring, all of this, and they were like, you're not finished yet. I'm like, okay. Eventually, we got the courage up to go up there, and we went up. We turned on the light. The room looked as it had always looked. It's like a little bedroom. And we entered into the room, and I was instantly overcome by the energy of one of my guardian spirits. And my husband at the time, he was overcome by one of his guides too, different type of guide. And I sat down. My guide directed me to sit down on the ground, and he started to do some sort of energy manipulation again, some sort of magic. I went into a closed eyes state. I could feel him behind me. Later, my husband would say I could see your guardian spirit behind you, and he actually talked to me. He said that you can tell Robert I'm always with him. I'm always got his back. And anyway, this guardian spirit was behind me, working through me and doing this energy manipulation to clean the room. It was at this point again then that I realized I had another spirit animal, a big dragon came, and my guardian was introducing me to this dragon, and he's like, the dragon was like up here behind me, gigantic dragon, and he just commanded the dragon to burn everything, and the dragon just burned the whole space with fire from its mouth. Again, fire is purification, right? So he burnt the whole space, and at that moment, my guide through me was doing these movements with his hands. But when I looked up to see what he was doing, it was really cool. I could see that he had like accessed some sort of like spiritual technology. He was able to manipulate these hieroglyphic symbols that were made of light, that were just floating in the ether, floating in the air. It was like he opened this spiritual computer interface, and it looked like this mandala thing full of hieroglyphs and in concentric rings of different symbols and stuff, and he could just pluck out of the air with his hand one of the rings in this very complicated mandala, and like turn one to the left, and then he'd take a bigger ring and turn it to the right, and turn it another way, like he was lining up different symbols on this mandala, and eventually the whole thing just kind of clicked and lit up with this purple, bright purple light, and it made the whole space look like look like a temple. Like again, this idea of like two different spaces in the same space. It transformed the bedroom into this massive temple, and it was at this point then I could pay attention to my husband. He was over in the corner of the bedroom, and he was incorporating a spirit guide of his, and I could see his guide, and like superimposed over his body was a visualization, or the form, a visible form of Preto Velho, like an old black man, a guide again that we had been getting to know, both of us. And this old black man with his straw hat was just in the corner of the room with his hands up like this, and I could hear him praying in Portuguese, and he was praying and praying, and I was just watching him. And when he put his hands up onto the wall, it was just a normal part of the wall in the corner of the room. He was praying, and he put his hand on the wall, and there was an ungodly crack from somewhere. It was just like something cracked. It was this bang, this crack, and everything just suddenly, like the energy just changed. Everything just became neutral, nice, peaceful. And what we could understand was that there was some sort of fissure or some sort of crack, interdimensional crack in that space, in that corner of the room, of the bedroom, whereby this negativity was entering, these entities were entering. And funnily enough, the crack was just on top of where I would sleep when we did live in that house. It was right on top of the corner where I slept, and I didn't have the best nights there, which was quite interesting. But as soon as we did that, as soon as my husband was like finished with his prayers, with his guide, there was this sort of like lightness that came over the place. My vision just went really white and bright, and I could see like a multitude of spirits, like white forms in white light all around us. and they were just like clapping. It was like we received a celestial round of applause for what we did. And I went downstairs. We were pretty like happy. We were like obviously amazed by what we had just experienced, what we had gone through. So we were quite excited to be in essentially in a movie, man. We were in our own little movie, and it was very special. As I went downstairs, another guide appeared. Another spirit guide presented himself. He took over my body. In Portuguese, he said, "I am the sailor," and he did this like pose out of nowhere. My body just did this thing it never did, and he did this really cool pose. Sometimes these spirits, these archetypes, the sailors, the indigenous warriors, the guardian spirits, they'll like arrive and they'll do this signature thing. They'll do a move. They'll do something that identifies them as who they are, almost like a signature, um, to let you know that it's them. You know. Um, so he presented himself and he was like, "Well done," and like talking to me a little bit, and the team was growing. After all this was done, all this crazy intense experience, we had like a little debriefing session with his family, how we can like avoid this, and a few pointers that would help to lighten the energy in the space, make it a little bit better, and reduce possibility of spirits interfering in your life, especially these very, very negative and dark ones, which we don't really want around. They really do have a big impact on us. So thanks for listening to my story. Uh, Tune in for the next one, and God bless.